Someone is selling food from their home right now. No license, no food hygiene certificate, no business registration. And hundreds of people are queuing up to buy it, not because they don't know.
Because they don't care, because the food is that good. The underground food economy is one of the most visible, invisible industries in Britain. It is everywhere.
It feeds millions, and almost nobody in authority knows exactly how big it is.
Every registered food business in the UK has to display its hygiene rating. The underground economy has no rating, no inspection, no record. The Food Standards Agency estimates there are around 600,000 registered food businesses in the UK. The real number of places producing and selling food is significantly higher.
The gap lives in WhatsApp groups, in Facebook Marketplace, in Instagram stories that disappear after 24 hours, in community networks built on trust rather than certificates.
This is not people occasionally selling a slice of cake to a neighbour. This is a parallel food industry.
Organised, regular, and feeding tens of thousands of people every single day. The licensed market trader pays for his pitch, his permit, his food hygiene training. His unlicensed competitor pays nothing and goes home with more.
The formal food economy in Britain is heavily regulated. Registration with the local authority, food hygiene standards, allergen labelling requirements, regular inspection. The underground food economy operates just behind it. Same customers, same food, none of the compliance.
Local authorities are responsible for inspecting food businesses, but council food safety teams have been cut by more than 40% in the last decade. In some areas, registered food businesses are going years without an inspection. The unregistered ones are never inspected at all. There is simply nobody left to check.
The underground food economy has its own rating system, not the Food Standards Agency's 5 stars.
Just comments, reviews, word of mouth. And in many communities, that reputation matters more. In immigrant communities across Britain, the underground food economy is not a grey market. It is the primary food market. It is how people eat the food they grew up with, cooked the way they remember it at a price they can actually afford. For many of these cooks, food is not a side hustle, it is the business. They have regulars, they have loyal customers who have eaten their food for years, they have a reputation built entirely on quality, and they are undercutting the registered competition in the same postcode, not through inferior food, through the absence of costs that the registered business must carry.
TikTok changed everything. A home cook who would once have fed 50 people a week now has 2 million people watching their food, and a significant number of them want to order it. The platform creates the demand. The WhatsApp link in the bio fulfills it. The kitchen is a living room. The food safety inspector doesn't know it exists.
The formal food economy has its own shadow version, the ghost kitchen, a single facility producing food for multiple delivery brands, all of them technically registered, but the lines between what is and isn't regulated are blurring fast. A customer ordering from 4 different restaurants on a delivery app might be eating food from the same kitchen, made by the same people, with the same ingredients. They have no idea. The delivery platforms have their own problem. Businesses register with an address. The platforms do not always verify what is at that address. And in some cases, what is there is a home kitchen operating without any food business registration at all. The platforms say businesses must comply with local food regulations, but the verification is limited.
And the volume of listings is enormous. Nobody is checking every address.
The Food Standards Agency records around 2.4 million cases of food poisoning in Britain every year. Most are never traced to their origin, many are never reported at all. When someone gets sick from an unregistered food business, the chain of accountability is almost impossible to follow. There is no registration number, no record of the transaction, often no way to prove where the food came from. The most serious risk in the underground food economy is allergens. Registered businesses are legally required to provide allergen information. The underground economy has no such obligation, and no enforcement to create one.
People have died because food they ate contained an allergen they weren't told about. In the underground economy, that information doesn't exist. The buyer is trusting the seller entirely.
Most underground food sellers are careful. They know their customers. Many are more diligent about allergens than some registered businesses, but most is not all.
And when it goes wrong in the underground economy, the consequences fall entirely on the individual.
There is no insurance, no business to claim against, no regulatory body that was supposed to prevent it.
The system that is supposed to prevent these failures is stretched beyond its capacity. Food safety officers in local councils are managing more businesses with fewer staff and smaller budgets than at any point in the last 30 years.
The unregistered businesses aren't a secret. In most areas, the food safety team knows they exist. They just don't have the capacity to do anything about it. Between 2010 and 2024, funding for local authority food safety enforcement fell by over 40% in real terms. The underground food economy grew by an estimated similar proportion in the same period. The two trends are not unconnected. There is a legitimate version of the underground food economy: street food market, supper clubs, home food businesses registered under the cottage food exemptions.
Registration as a food business costs nothing. A basic food hygiene certificate costs around £12 online. The barriers to legitimacy are surprisingly low.
But most underground food sellers have never done it, because nobody told them they had to, because enforcement is invisible, because the business works perfectly well without it, and in many cases they are right that it works. The food is good, the customers are loyal. The safety record is clean, the absence of regulation hasn't caused harm. But the absence of regulation also means the absence of structure. The practices that prevent food poisoning are the same ones that food safety training teaches. Without training, corners get cut, not always intentionally, sometimes unknowingly.
The risks in the underground food economy are not theoretical. They are the same risks that food safety regulation was designed to eliminate. And in the underground economy, those risks exist unchecked.
The system knows the risks. The system acknowledges the gap. The system does not have the resources to close it.
The delivery economy has created a new layer of invisibility: a registered delivery platform, an unregistered kitchen, a customer who has no idea which side of the line their meal sits on.
The platforms market home cooks as a feature, not a flaw. Authentic homemade food, local flavours, personal recipes. The regulatory question sits below the marketing.
The underground food economy is increasingly indistinguishable from the platform economy, and the platform economy has an interest in keeping it that way.
There is a version of this conversation that focuses on risk, and there is a version that focuses on what the underground food economy provides. For communities who cannot find their food in the mainstream market, who cannot afford the restaurant version of their own cuisine, who rely on home cooks to feed them the food that matters, the underground economy is not a problem, it is a solution. Every cost that the licensed food business carries gets passed to the consumer. The underground economy passes none of those costs, and the difference is felt most by the people with the least. Most underground food sellers are not operating in defiance of the law. They simply exist in a space the law hasn't reached, a space that regulation has abandoned by default, not design. And until the regulatory capacity is rebuilt, until local authority food safety teams have the resource to reach the underground economy, that space will keep growing. Every night, in every city, food is being sold, bought and eaten outside the formal food economy. Safely mostly, joyfully mostly, and entirely beyond the reach of the system that is supposed to know about it. There is always a back channel. There is always a network you weren't told about. I'm off the books.